Okay, recording. Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Welcome. This is Joe Dumont, StateOfMoon.com, and today is the 7th day of Unleavened Bread. Excuse me, that's my unleavened bread coming up there just from this morning. You're supposed to eat unleavened bread for 7 days. So today, what we've been doing in this series is we've been going through each of the events on the day that they occurred. We did the Passover, we did the foot washing, we did the fast of the firstborn. We've done all these things as they've occurred in order for you to have them make sense to you, so that they are understandable to you chronologically. For me in my brain, when I see it chronologically, it makes perfect sense. So if I can convey that to other people, then that's what I want to try and do. And that's what I've been trying to do in this series of teachings the past few days. Let me just say one thing here off the top. There are certain people out there, they call themselves brethren, and yet they are condemning us and saying certain things about us that are not very nice or very flattering. I'm going to address that here, possibly between the two services today. I don't enjoy being called a Jezebel for doing what I believe to be right. But I want you all to do this. I want you to pray for our brethren. Not that they come and join us or agree with us or accept that we're right and that they're wrong. That's not what I'm asking you to do. We could very well be wrong. Now, if you haven't checked the barley and you haven't checked the witness, Becca, and you haven't checked what she's presented to you, then there's a chance that you could be wrong. I've checked. I spent the whole week checking before I made my decision. And I encourage each one of you to do the same. And I believe you all have. And so it's, that's why we're gathered here today on this 7th day. But there's other people who dismiss that witness. That's fine. We dismissed Devorah last year and her testimony again this year, but we also are not attacking Devorah or the Karaites or Yoel Halevi for their witness that the Passover begins next month. I still love them. I still want to be able to talk to them. I still want to be able to negotiate and reason with them or do stuff with them in the future. They're brethren. But their understanding of the barley being aviv is that you have to have a whole field that you can put a sickle in and take down the whole field. My understanding is that you need a wave offering, an omer. You don't need a whole field. My understanding is that the barley only becomes ripe after you cut it. If you cut the barley when it's already ripe and you tie it into a wave sheaf, or first of all, you cut it, tie it into a wave sheaf, stick it in a sheaf, and then stick it in a stalk, which is a big pile of sheaves all together in a field. By the time you do that, then you put it on the wagon to take to the barn. Before you get it to the threshing floor, the seed has already fallen out. Any farmer will tell you that. I grew up on a farm. Now, mind you, it was a cattle farm and pigs and horses and chickens. We didn't have sheep and we didn't have much chickens because the pig kept eating the chickens. But we did have crops. And I did go out and work for other people picking stuff. And you don't pick it when it's fully ripe. You pick it before it's ripe so that by the time you get it to market, it is ripe. So when you cut the barley, you need an omerful. That's all we need to start it. And you cut it with green ears. That's why they call it green ears. It's not 100% ripe. And when you cut it right after the Sabbath. The next day, it's wave sheaf day. That's 12 hours later. So Becca did a little thing for me. She did 12 hours later. She checked the barley. And going from a soft or hard dough, it became a really hard dough that she couldn't split with her thumb. That's enough. Now, did Becca have to go actually pick an omer of it? No. We don't have a temple to do this at. but we need to recognize when the barley is right. So what I'm telling you is do not fall to the level of some people and begin to attack them for not understanding your position. Do not do it. And I'm saying it to myself too, because I just want to go out there and throttle somebody right now. I'm still got that fighting spirit in me. But don't do it. We are commanded to love one another, and by that love, they will know who we are. You're going to look in the book of Revelation, you're going to see that there's 144,000 that are raised up on that last day when the Messiah comes, and they're meet him in the clouds. 144,000. That's, of 7.8 billion people in the world today, 144,000 is not even a drop in the bucket. It's barely a mist in the air. It's so small, like an omer, like the wave offering. It's just a sample, just a little sample. And yet that 144,000 is only 12,000 from each of the tribes. Which tribe are you from? Well, Johan, I'd say you're from Zebulun. So I don't qualify for that tribe. I think I'm from either Manasseh or Ephraim. Maybe Reuben. Maybe Zebulun. I don't know. We got a mix, but Heinz 57 tribe I'd probably fit into. But there's only 12,000 there. So if you want to bicker and fight and you want to call people names, call brethren names, then you are disqualifying yourself from having a chance to be amongst the 12,000 in your tribe. Okay? So think about that every time you go on there and you want to just blast somebody, because I sometimes forget. And I'm not trying to justify that I'm the only one allowed to do it. I'm just saying, to me and to you, you will know them by their fruits, and you will know them by their love for one another. So we had this problem in 2016 when we differed then. Bad time, very bad time. And during that whole time, I was talking to Nehemiah Gordon privately while both sides were throwing dirt at each other. Nehemiah and I kept on talking, and we remained friends. Last year, again, the difference, it was not as bad. But now, with the split even amongst us this year, it's starting up again. So I'm saying, do not do it. Okay, that's my little ramble for today. Let's get down to what we're here for. Today is the 7th day of unleavened bread. Where is that? That is, we're going to start reading, and we're going to do a little bit of an overlap. We're going to start in verse 13, chapter 13 of Exodus. Excuse me again. Well, I didn't know unleavened bread kept coming back. I've had about 3 or 4 tastes of it this morning. Exodus 13, and we're going to go through here to Exodus 15, and then we're going to stop and think. Or at least I hope we're going to stop. I'll stop, and maybe we'll see who's thinking. Okay? Exodus 13. Does anybody want to read today? Does anyone feel good like reading, or do you still want me to read? Crickets again. Okay. Then the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, consecrate to me all the firstborn, whatever opens the womb among the children of Israel, both of man and beast. It is mine. And I watched the 10 Commandments the other day. I think I told you that. I still get goosebumps. And it's been, my grandmother took me there when I was 4 in Newfoundland, and I watched it for the first time in color. First time I seen anything in color. I was blown away. We sat at the front row. I don't know why she picked the front row. Newfoundland Theater in Corner Brook. Anyway, still loved it. And I watched it again. It still gets me excited every year. Verse 3, and Moses said to the people, remember this day in which you went out of Egypt. Which day is that? This is the Passover day, in which you went out of Egypt, out of the house of bondage, for by strength of hand the Lord brought you out of this place. No leavened bread shall be eaten. On this day you are going out in the month of Abib. And it shall be when the Lord brings you into the land of the Canaanites, the Hittites, and the Amorites, and the Hivites, and the Jebusites, which he swore to your fathers to give you, a land flowing with milk and honey, that you shall keep this service in this month. 7 days you shall eat unleavened bread, not 8, not 9, 7 days. And it starts with the Passover on the 15th. Today is now the 7th day. And on the 7th day, today, there shall be a feast to the Lord. That's what we're doing. Unleavened bread shall be eaten 7 days, and no leavened bread shall be seen among you. So just like Nancy did, throwing out all her tacos that she bought from the Costco by the caseload and pallet full. Good thing she's got Kevin there to keep her honest. Chuck them all out. And no leavened bread shall be seen among you, nor, and Nancy, I'm only kidding you because we've all done it. We've all done it. We've gone out. Oh, yes, I'm going to keep Passover. Yes, I'm going to keep unleavened days of bread. And we don't have a clue what we're doing. Okay, well, I'm supposed to eat leaven. Hamburger buns. I'm going to have hamburger on Thursday. Can I? Hamburger buns. What's wrong with hamburger buns? It's just hamburger. Then you start thinking. Then you start reading the ingredients. Then you start. It's a process. It's a learning process. And like I said, you can't go from 0 to 100. There's like that big curve in there. And as you grow and grow and grow and learn more and more and more, you get there. It takes time. And again, it takes time. So why the 5 foolish virgins? Why were they told to go and buy oil? How come the 5 wise ones already had the oil? They'd already spent what? What is it that it's not money? It's time. They spent time. That's what I did last time. I keep seeing my mouse is over top of my name, and that's when I hit the admit button, but it's a mute button. I almost did it again. Okay, keep the mouse down here. They invested the time. The 5 wise invested the time to develop that oil, to learn how to draw closer to Jehovah. Okay, the thief in the tree, he died, with what, 6 hours of meeting Yeshua, he's dead. He repented. But the 5 foolish virgins, they didn't repent. They just figured, I'm good enough. You know what? I'm using Nancy again. I made a mistake about the taco shells. That's okay. I'll do it. I'll do it better next year. I'm just going to eat them. I already spent the money on them now. That's $100. I'm not throwing that in the garbage. Okay, I'll do it next year better. That's not repenting. That's justification of your own sin. Yeah. Guilty, been there, done it. Trying not to do it again. Might do it again, but trying not to. It's a process we all have to learn. So the 5 foolish did not invest the time. So by the time they come back from going to get their oil, what happens to them? The door's already closed. I don't know who you are. Do you see what's happening? Do you understand that? By going through each of these holy days, investing the time to learn about them, taking the time to study, to read his books, and to study, and I say this with a big grain of salt, to study books outside the Bible, because you got to study the ones that teach you about the Bible, not the ones that lead you away into other doctrines and other theories and other calendars. So, okay, enough of my little rant. I'm going to try and stick to my notes. Sorry. But it's important that you do this stuff. And it's important that you pay attention to these little details because you learn a lot by doing them. So Exodus 13, verse 7, unleavened bread shall be eaten 7 days, and no leavened bread shall be seen among you. nor shall leaven be seen among you in all your quarters. And you should tell your son in that day, saying, this is done because of what Jehovah did for me when I came up from Egypt. It shall be a sign. Okay, here's another one. I got to do it. Here's a sign. What's the sign? You today, not just you people here, but everyone who's keeping today, even those who are keeping it on the wrong day, even those who are keeping it by the Hillel calendar. This is a sign. So which sign is it? Is the one on your pinky finger, the one on your marriage finger, or is it your thumb? Which one is the strongest one of them all, right? It's a sign on your hand. What's that mean? It's a sign between your heads or between your eyes or on your forehead. What's that mean? That's the mark of Jehovah. That's his mark. The Sabbath is his sign. The Sabbath, the holy days, the sabbatical years, the Jubilee year. That's his sign. Your love for one another, that's his sign. What's the mark of Satan? Any other day but the Sabbath, any other holy day but the Leviticus 23. Or adding to them and mixing them all up so that they're all the same. There's nothing holy. That's Satan's sign. That's the sign that we used to belong to. That was the mark that we used to be under. The sign in your hand, that's how you work. We stopped working today. You know, they're asking me, well, how come you're not at work? I told you yesterday I wasn't coming to work. Why aren't you coming to work yet? Because today's a holy day. What do you mean it's a holy day? It's a holy day. What, you don't know what a holy day is? No. Well, you never read the Leviticus 23? No. Well, I've read it. It's a holy day. That's why I'm not working tomorrow. You're impossible. I said, yeah. Okay, you deal with the coronavirus tomorrow. I'm going to take a break. So, they don't get it. But I don't hold my punches back either. I tell them straight up. Now, I used to hide. But I tell them straight up, I'm taking off because it's a holy day. Well, they can't fire me now because it's a holy day. I've already told them, well, you just take another, no. You know what? The boss might even put me down and pay me for today. Who knows? Who cares? It's the mark on your hand. The mark on your head is you're thinking about Torah. You're studying Torah, right? When you're keeping Sunday, what were you doing? Well, you're planning what you're going to have for lunch. And you're planning what you're going to do that night, that afternoon, the soccer game with the kids. We don't do that now. Now we're focused on Torah. Now we're focused on something that we're supposed to remember that took place on this day 3,000 years ago. 3,377 years ago. Right? Verse 9, it shall be as a sign to you on your hand and as a memorial between your eyes, that Jehovah's law may be in your mouth, for with a strong hand the Lord has brought you out of Egypt. The law may be in your mouth. Now I can say, and I'm sure, and in fact I know, I just looking at 3 years here now, who couldn't say boo here when I first met you. You guys are all out there now swinging your sword, talking and telling people this stuff. Yeah, 4. Yeah, there's a bunch of people. 5, 6. Yeah, there's a half dozen of, if not a dozen here that I can see that are doing that already. The sword in your mouth. This is the word. You're teaching. You're spreading the word. You're telling the word, and that's what we're all supposed to be doing. And that's awesome. And if you look back before you started this walk, how little you knew, and how much you thought you knew. Johan, go ahead. Did you? Oh, you're just showing me. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, very little. Yeah, the growth. If we look back at the growth, it's wow, right? So yeah. Verse 10. You shall therefore keep this ordinance in its season. When? At Passover season, from year to year. And it says, you shall therefore keep this ordinance in season from year to year until you enter the promised land. No, it doesn't say that. You shall therefore keep this ordinance in a season from year to year if you're Jewish. What, yours doesn't say that? Let me read that again. You shall therefore keep this ordinance in its season from year to year. Period. Who? Everyone who says they love Jehovah. Yeah, all you. Okay, so verse 11, 13, verse 11. Exodus 13, verse 11. And it shall be, when the Lord brings you into the land of the Canaanites, as he swore to you and your fathers, and gives it to you, that you shall set apart to the Lord all that opens the womb, that is every firstborn that comes from an animal which you have. The males shall be the Lord's, not the females. Sorry, ladies. But every firstborn of a donkey, and we read this the other day on foot washing night. But every firstborn of a donkey you shall redeem with a lamb, and if you will not redeem it, you shall break its neck. And all the firstborn of a man among the sons you shall redeem. So it shall be when your son asks you in time to come, saying, what is this? That you shall say to him, by strength of hand by the strength of hand, the Lord brought us out of Egypt, out of the house of bondage. And it came to pass when Pharaoh was stubborn about letting us go, that Jehovah killed all the firstborn in the land of Egypt, both the firstborn of man and the firstborn of beasts. Therefore I sacrifice the Lord all males that open the womb, but all the firstborn of my sons I redeem. And we didn't talk a lot about, but we talked about that on foot washing night, or the next day. It shall be as a sign on your hand, there it is again, and as frontlets between your eyes, on your forehead, for by strength of hand, Jehovah brought us out of Egypt. We are never to forget this. Never. This is huge. Then it shall come to pass when Pharaoh had let the people go, that God did not lead them by way of the land of the Philistines. And we talked about that. Although that was near, for God said, let perhaps the people change their minds when they see war and return to Egypt. So Jehovah knew their hearts. He knew what they would think, and they would chicken out and they would walk back. So God led the people around by the way of the wilderness of the Red Sea. And the children of Israel went up in orderly ranks out of the land of Egypt. And Moses took the bones of Joseph with him, for he had placed the children of Israel under solemn oath, saying, God will surely visit you, and you shall carry up my bones from here with you. How did Joseph know that? How did Joseph know that? Well, first of all, he was a prophet. But how did he know that? Some people call me a prophet. How do I know stuff? I don't have no voices talking to me in the night, no dreams. I don't go to heaven every day and have a conversation with God, like some of these psychics do. That's a little dig if you don't. I read the Torah. Joseph read that the promise is given to Abraham. The promise is given to Isaac, and the promise is given to Jacob, his father. So he knew they had to go back to the land. He may not have known when. Well, actually, he did know when, because Abraham was told 400 years from the persecution of Isaac and 430 years from the time that Jehovah made the covenant with him. So Joseph knew when. So does that make him a prophet? Well, yeah. How come the rest of the people didn't know? Well, they make mistakes. So they took the journey from Sukkoth and camped at Etham at the edge of the wilderness, and the Lord went before them by day in a pillar of cloud to lead the way, and by night in a pillar of fire to give them light, so as to go by day and night. Okay, so they went day and night. How far can you go in a day? Now, when I was younger, we did this, what we call an Oxfam walk, and it was like 30 miles. And we just sort of sauntered around this course to do this walk. I was, what, 10 years old, 8 years old? You know, I think I collected $20. I walked all stinking day to collect $20 in pennies to give to Oxfam. I did that every year for a number of years. How far can you walk in a day? So if I'm just sauntering along to do a 30-mile walk, it's not very far. How far is it from Sukkot over to the Red Sea? Anyone measure that? I believe it's 250 miles or thereabouts. I think that's the memory, that's what I have in my brain right now. So 250 miles. If you take that and divide it by 30, how much is that? Okay, so don't divide it by 30, divide it by 6. Because you're doing it day and night, right? 30 miles in the day, 30 miles at night, day and night. So divided by 60. 250 divided by 60 is what? Okay, it's less than 5. Yeah, I'll help you out. 250 divided by 60 is 4.16. Okay, 4.16 days, day and night. Could they walk from Sukkot over to the Red Sea in that time? Yeah. Then you get on there, people telling you using their how mass amounts of people walk, and they have all these formulas figured out. It takes about a month to move them that far. That's not true. These guys are sort of running for their lives. So we're going as quickly as we can. Did they all walk? They probably had wagons, right, to help carry stuff, so people could sleep in the back of the wagon and then walk while others slept. I don't know. You figure it out. So 4.16 days. Now the Lord spoke to Moses. Now the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, "Speak." I'm in chapter 14, verse 1. Now the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, "Speak to the children of Israel that they turn and camp before Pahahiroth, between Migdol and the sea, opposite Baal Zephon. You shall camp before it by the sea." So he turns. If you look on a map, I don't have a map. No, I don't. Yes, I do. Do I have a map? Let me see here. Yeah, I do. Okay. Let me just share that with you for a second. Screen share. Share screen. Can you all see that? Randy, I'm looking at you. Can you see it yet? No? Nobody?
Not yet. There you go.
Wow, that really
I can
takes
see it now.
It takes a long time to come up. Okay. So on my map here, I have the place of Ishmael in Egypt. Can you see that?
Yes, sir.
I don't know how to make this bigger. I'm sorry. And I have a guy here in the middle of walking. Okay, he's walking from Ishmael. Well, actually, I got him walking from Mansoura all the way to Eilat, which is 100. That's either 351 or 551 kilometers. I forget what that is. And I don't know what that 112 hours. I'm not sure what that is. Maybe you have to divide that 112.
551 kilometers.
Equals. Yeah, so it's 100. So okay, so this guy, listen to me. He's walking from Mansour to El Eilat and then down to Nuweiba. That's 551 kilometers. It's going to take him 112 hours, and 112 hours divided by 24 equals 4.6 days. What did I just say it was? 4.16. Because they already met in Sukkot. They camped at Sukkot at the end of the first day of unleavened bread. And this is the northern route. So if you look up here by the Mediterranean Sea, that was the way Jehovah said he did not want them to go. That was a shortcut. And remember, 30 years before this, they were slaughtered. Ephraim was slaughtered. 50,000 Ephraimites were killed. That's because they went that way and they went too early. So this is walking this distance here. Okay, unshare, stop sharing. Chapter 14, verse 4. Then I will harden Pharaoh's heart so that he will pursue them, and I will gain honor over Pharaoh and over his army, that the Egyptians may know that I am the Lord. And they did so. Now was told to the king of Egypt that the people had fled, and the heart of Pharaoh and his servants was turned against the people. And they said, why have we done this, that we have let Israel go from serving us? So he made ready his chariots and took his people with him. He also took 600 choice, and I'm going to come back to this in a few minutes. Just remember this. He also took 600 choice chariots and all the chariots of Egypt with captains over every one of them. And there's about 3 men per chariot, and this isn't counting the footmen. And the Lord hardened the heart of Pharaoh, king of Egypt, and he pursued the children of Israel, and the children of Israel went out with boldness. So the Egyptians pursued them, all the horses and chariots of Pharaoh, his horsemen and his army, and overtook them camping by the sea beside Pi-hahiroth, before Baal-zephon. And when Pharaoh drew near, the children of Israel lifted their eyes, and behold, the Egyptians marched after them. So they were afraid, and the children of Israel cried out to the Lord. This is now today. This is now today. When is this today? It's actually starting last night. It started last, and I'm going to show that to you here in some of the things that you really haven't really read before. I hope I'm going to show you that. But it started last night. So the Egyptians, it's now the 6th day, the Egyptians are coming up on them, and the people are panicking. And they said to Moses, because there were no graves in Egypt, you have taken us away to die in the wilderness. Why have you so dealt with us, to bring us out of Egypt? Is this not the word that we told you in Egypt, saying, let us alone, that we may serve the Egyptians? For it would have been better for us to serve the Egyptians than that we should die in the wilderness. And Moses said to the people, do not be afraid, stand still and see the salvation of the Lord, which he will accomplish for you today. For the Egyptians whom you see today, you shall see again no more forever. The Lord will fight for you, and you shall hold your peace. And the Lord said to Moses, why do you cry to me? Moses, you're such an idiot. Come on. You can't go north. You can't go south. The Egyptians are coming behind you. Do the obvious thing. Walk forward. It's an ocean there in front of you. What do you mean walk forward? Jehovah told him to go forward. It's water. But lift up your rod and stretch out your hand over the sea and divide it, and the children of Israel shall go on dry ground through the midst of the sea. And I indeed will harden the hearts of the Egyptians, and they shall follow them. So I will gain honor over Pharaoh and over his army and his chariots and his horsemen. Then the Egyptians shall know that I am the Lord, when I have gained honor for myself over Pharaoh, his chariots, and his horsemen. And the angel of God who went before the camp of Israel moved and went behind them. And the pillar of cloud went from before them and stood behind them. So it came between the camp of the Egyptians and the camp of Israel. Thus, I watched the 10 Commandments, and I see this happen, and I now seen what Nueva looks like, and I got a good idea. I was hoping to be on that beach here, next Sunday. This just blows my mind to picture this event. Like, I don't know, it makes me amazing to be standing there and watch this take place. Anyway, because it's a narrow valley that the Egyptians are coming down. There may be 2, 3, 4 chariots wide. That's as much as they can get in. And they're coming down through this ravine, and it's echoing, just echoing the thunder of the hooves, boom, boom, boom. And that's all you're hearing is the thunder of these horses coming towards you. And this fire that you've been following goes and stands in that entrance to this big wide beach that you're on. Wow. Wow. Verse 20, Exodus 14, verse 20. So it came between the camp of the Egyptians and the camp of Israel. Thus it was a cloud and darkness to the one, and it gave light by night to the other. When is this taking place? It's nighttime. It's the first day of unleavened bread. This is last night. This is what's taken place last night. As the sun set, after the sunset. And it gave light to the night by the other, so that the one that did not come near the other all that night. Then Moses stretched out his hand over the sea, and the Lord caused the sea to go back by a strong east wind all that night, and made the sea to dry into dry land, and the waters were divided. This is important. Well, you don't see the importance of it yet, but this is important. Because we're getting all these other reports saying that it's too rainy, it's too cold, it's too wet, it's too this, too that to have the barley ripe right now. There's too many of too this wrongs. What do? You prove the barley's ripe. Moses left. Listen to what's about to happen. And remember what happened in 2016. And remember what's happened already this year. And just, Johan, make a note of that. Remind them or tell them what has happened. Where was it?
Well, I'm sorry, I want to, but I didn't keep all this done, so I don't know.
Oh, just make a note that I said remind them about what has happened in 2016 and what happened this year and what happened here at the Exodus. Because I got to come back to this. I can't give away the ending yet. That's what I'm doing. So I'm asking you to remind me. You don't know what you remind me of, but you're going to remind me of something. Okay. So the children of Israel went into the midst of the sea. Whoops. Verse 21, and Moses stretched out his hand over the sea, and the Lord caused the sea to go back by a strong wind, a strong east wind all that night, and made the sea into a dry land, and the waters were divided. So the children of Israel went into the midst of the sea on the dry ground, and the waters were a wall to them on the right and on the left. And I'm going to ask Randy to remind me to come back to this verse, verse 22. Okay? And the Egyptians pursued and went after them into the midst of the sea, all Pharaoh's horses, his chariots, and his horsemen. Now it came to pass in the morning. When is this? This morning, right now. What time? I'll bet you is around the time of the wave off, or not the wave offering, or the wave offering, or the first offering at 9 a.m. I'll bet you that. Now, it came to pass in the morning watch, that the Lord looked down upon the army of the Egyptians through the pillar of cloud of fire, through the pillar of fire and cloud, and he troubled the army of the Egyptians. He gave them a look that scared them. And he took off their chariot wheels, so that they drove them with difficulty. And the Egyptians said, let us flee from the face of Israel, for the Lord fights for them against the Egyptians. Then the Lord said to Moses, stretch out your hand over the sea, and the waters may come back upon the Egyptians, on their chariots and on their horsemen. And Moses stretched out his hand over the sea, and when the morning appeared, when the sunlight came up in the morning, so maybe it's before the 9 a.m. service, the sea returned to its full depth, while the Egyptians were fleeing in it. So the Lord overthrew the Egyptians in the midst of the sea. Then the waters returned and covered the chariots, the horsemen, and all the army of Pharaoh that came into the sea after them, not so much as one. In the movie The Exodus, the Pharaoh's going back, but not so much as one. Not one, not even the Pharaoh. Where was I? Not so much as one of them remain. Okay, verse 29, I'm sorry. But, oops. But the children of Israel had walked on dry land in the midst of the sea, and the waters were a wall to them on the right and on their left. So the Lord saved Israel that day out of the hand of the Egyptians, and Israel saw the Egyptians dead on the seashore. Thus Israel saw the great work which the Lord had done in Egypt. So the people feared the Lord and believed the Lord and his servant Moses. Wow. Talk about having a dream. Now, this was no dream. You were up all night watching this, taking part in this. Let's go on. We're going to do chapter 15. Then Moses and the children of Israel sang this song to the Lord, and Moses, sang the song to the Lord and spoke, saying, and I'm not going to sing it because I just can't sing. I don't even do karaoke well. I will sing to the Lord, for he has triumphed gloriously. The horse and its rider he has thrown into the sea. The Lord is my strength and song, and he has become my salvation. He is my God, and I will praise him. It's pretty neat. They can just whip up this song all of a sudden, right? My Father's God, and I will exalt him. Verse 3, the Lord is a man of war. The Lord is his name. Jehovah is his name. Pharaoh's chariots and his army he has cast into the sea. His chosen captains are also drowned in the sea. The depths have covered them. They sank to the bottom like a stone. Your right hand, O Lord, has become glorious in power. Your right hand, O Lord, has dashed the enemy in pieces. And in the greatness of your excellence, you have overthrown those who rose against you. You set forth your wrath. It consumed them like stubble. And with the blast of your nostrils, the waters were gathered together. The flood stirred upright like heap. The depths congealed in the heart of the sea. The enemy said, I will pursue. I will overtake. I will divide the spoil. My desire shall be satisfied on them. I will draw my sword. My hand shall destroy them. You blew with your wind. The sea covered them. They sank like lead in the mighty waters. Who is like you, O Jehovah, among the gods? Who is like you, glorious in holiness, fearful in praises, doing wonders? You stretched out your right hand, the earth swallowed them. In your mercy have led forth the people whom you have redeemed. You have guided them in your strength to your holy habitation. The people will hear and be afraid. Sorrow will take hold of the inhabitants of Philistia. Then the chiefs of Edom will be dismayed. The mighty men of Moab, trembling will take hold of them. All the inhabitants of Canaan will melt away. And this all came true because they were terrified of these people after this. Fear and dread will fall on them. By the greatness of your arm, they will be as still as a stone. Till your people pass over, O Lord, till the people pass over whom you have purchased. You purchased them with the firstborn. You bring them in and plant them in the mountain of your inheritance, in the place, O Lord, which you have made for your own dwelling, the sanctuary, O Lord, which your hands have established. The Lord shall reign forever and ever. Verse 19, for the horses of Pharaoh went with his chariots and his horsemen into the sea, and the Lord brought back the waters on the sea upon them. But the children of Israel went on dry land in the midst of the sea. Then Miriam, the prophetess, the sister of Aaron, took the timbrel in her hand, and all the women went out after with her timbrels with dance. And Miriam answered them, sing to the Lord, for he has triumphed gloriously. The horse and its rider he has thrown into the sea. So Moses brought Israel from the Red Sea. Then they went out into the wilderness of Shur, and they went 3 days into the wilderness and found the water. And I'm going to stop there because that's what I was supposed to be doing in Mount Sinai or in Saudi Arabia this week. Wasn't meant to be. But can you imagine? Just imagine you're standing on the Saudi Arabia side. You've just watched this, the Red Sea that split apart so you could walk through, fall back and destroy the mighty Egyptian army, the most powerful army in the world. And the waves are washing up on your feet and going back and coming back in. And you're still looking there and they're still gone. And you can't believe it. What did you just see? Who's this Moses guy? Is he real? What did I just see? Are they really gone? Did I really walk through that? How did I get over here? Somebody pinch me. Am I asleep? What's going on? Put yourself in their shoes. Last week you were serving some Egyptian porridge and nobody even regarded you. And today their army is destroyed. This is a phenomenal day. This took place today. Oh, there's so much I could teach on that. Yeah, I'm going to do it. Johan, were you supposed to remind me of? No, we can't go there yet. Hang on. Not yet. What was it? Tell me, what were you supposed to remind me of?
Well, what happened in 2016, and now in relating to the Exodus, the barley fight.
Oh yeah, no, okay, that's later. Randy, I know what you are. Okay. I want you to, let me just lost my notes. Now some of you know where I'm going because you've been here a while, but for those of you that are new, like Nancy and Kevin, listen up. I don't know who else is new here. Oh, Julie Bradley, you're new. I want you to listen up. Julie Bradley, sorry. Who else is here new? Johnny Kern, you might be new. I'm not sure. All the new people, I really want you to pay attention now. Okay? So sit up straight, listen, this is for you. I want you to go, we just read right over this. And we do this when we're reading the Bible all the time. We just read right over stuff and we don't really pay attention. And it's years later, somebody goes, boom, bam. And a lightning bolt hits your head. How come you never saw that before? So Nancy, can I pick on you? No? Have you got food in your mouth? I want you, Nancy, I want you to read 15 verse 8. Okay, let me, okay, you're unmuted, go ahead.
Okay. Exodus 15 verse 8. With a blast from your nostrils, the water piled up, and the water stood up like a wall. The depths of the sea became firm ground. Keep going.
No, that's it. That's what I want. That's all I want to focus on right now. Okay, I'm going to mute you again. Okay, thank you. Now Nancy's pretty sharp. She may already know what I'm doing. She's been doing a lot of reading, but just in case she doesn't, and for those others who don't, what did you just read? Okay, if you guys already, you older guys already know, be quiet. The newer people, what did you just read? Okay, Nancy, again, I want you to go to Psalm 78. You're unmuted now, Psalm 78, and read verse 13.
Okay. Psalm 78:13. He split the sea and made them pass through. He made the water stand up like a wall.
Thank you. Okay, what does that mean? What I'm trying to do, you're standing, you just walked through this thing, you're standing on the other side, you're looking back. You walked through it in the middle of the night. You're standing on the other side now, the daylight's just come up. The last thing you saw in the daylight was the Egyptians on the other side of this fire thing, and you're being told to walk into the ocean. Now you're standing on this side, on the Saudi Arabia side, you're looking back, the Egyptian army's just been snuffed out. But I want to say 12 brigades of men gone, just like that. And you've just walked through this thing that stood up like a wall. Okay, so now we got to do some homework. And here's your assignment. We're going to do it here, but I don't want you to believe me. I want you to go and prove this out to yourselves afterwards. I want you to go look up this word that we read in, what did we read that in? Exodus 15:8. I want you to look up the word congealed in the heart of the sea. Okay. Somebody other than Nancy, somebody else that's new, this is your first time doing Passover this year, put up your hand and tell me who you are. Victoria, you got your hand up. I'm going to unmute you. Go ahead. Victoria.
My hand's been up for a long time for something else, but anyway.
Go ahead.
What was the question, Joe? What is your question?
Well, first, what was your question first? You had your hand up. I didn't see it.
Okay, I was late and I wanted to know the scripture that you were reading from.
Oh, it's Exodus 15, verse 8.
Now I've got it now.
Okay.
I've got it now.
So then,
okay.
Victoria, is this your first Passover? I don't think so.
Yes.
Oh, it is. Ah, okay.
It's the first one I kept.
Okay. Then this word congeal, what does that mean to you?
Just from sheer understanding or memory, it is something that gelled or became solid, semi-solid.
Very good. Very good.
Like Jello.
Like Jello.
Yeah.
Yes, I think Nancy was talking about Jello before this. Okay, Julie Bradley, can I pick on you? What does the word congealed mean to you? You're unmuted now.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I would say the same thing. You know, I think of it as kind of almost like when like you have a cut and your blood like scabs up. Like that's what I would think of.
Okay. Yeah, that's a good description. Okay. Okay, I'm going to mute you again. Anyone else? I want the new people to tell me what they're thinking. Julie and Renee, lower hand, unmute. Julie and Renee, go ahead.
So I think it just means to come together.
Okay, so put that in the sentence for me.
To come together. Well, I lost you for a little bit, so I missed like the last 5 minutes of your conversation.
Okay, we're looking at the word congealed in Exodus 15, verse 8, and I'm trying to get people to describe it to me what it means. And you're saying it's the water come together.
To congeal would be to solidify, I guess. I think would be the best word.
What does that mean? Well, first of all, where do you live?
In New York.
Okay, so what does that mean? What you just said. Tell us what you just said. Explain it a different way.
To solidify. Like, oh, wow. I'm a visual, so it's really hard to try and explain it because I can see it. But
well, explain what you're seeing because that's what I'm going to do here. I want everyone to see this.
Okay.
Now, this is your first Passover, correct?
No, actually, I've been keeping Passover for several years, but this is the first time in your group and following the barley harvest this time. And I think it's absolutely amazing and beautiful.
Okay, I'll let you qualify that way then.
Okay.
So keep going with your description. Tell me more. Describe what you're saying more. Re-describe it another way.
I don't know, to hold together, to come together. I mean, when I see it in my mind, I'm thinking about it as Yeshua All things hold together by him and through him. And so when I think of the word congeal, when I think of it to be solidified, it's all coming together. It's all holding, it's all held by Yahuwah, I guess. I just think, I don't know how to explain it. I'm so
Okay,
sorry.
so you're going spiritual on me, and that's not where I'm going to go, but that's okay. I'm not saying you're wrong. That's not where I'm going.
Right.
But, okay, so Nancy, you were waving there at me a minute ago, and I'm always afraid to let Nancy in because she's pretty sharp. Go ahead, Nancy. Hang on, I'll unmute you. There you go.
To firm up and to take shape and to become whole.
Okay.
Or
Okay.
frozen.
Ooh, gotta mute Nancy now. She's stealing my thunder. What does this word congealed mean? If we dissect this verse, we can see the following. The waters gathered together, like Julie and Renee were saying, comes from the Strong's Concordance, Hebrew word H6192, pronounced Aram, A with a hyphen or a R-A-M. And it means to heap up, to pile, to be heaped up. And this expression is used just one time in all the Bible. Is there anybody here from Newfoundland besides me? Stephen Smith is almost from Newfoundland, and he might be able to answer this. Stephen,
Yes.
have you had a lot of snow there this year?
Not a whole lot, not like we have gotten, but
But you have had lots of snow there in other years.
oh, big time.
Have you ever seen it where people are throwing the snow up in the front yard, and then people are up in the front yard throwing it up even higher because it's so much snow?
I've seen snow 10 foot high on the side of the roads, like, people
Yeah.
jumping off their roofs into the drifts. It's so high. Like,
Yeah,
we get quite a bit sometimes.
I've done that, and I'm in Ontario. But in Newfoundland, okay, I'm going to mute you again, Steve. Thank you. And in Newfoundland, you can see them blowing the snow or shoveling the snow. A lot of them are shoveling the snow, and they shove it onto their front yard. And then there's somebody up in the front yard shoveling it up on to the yard next door. And there's even a guy over there shoving it out even further. Like if that'd be 18 feet high of snow. Now, my parents were up in Labrador, and they went for a snowmobile ride, and they stopped them out in the middle of nowhere and said, we're here, we're at our destination. There's nothing around except these little trees that are this tall. And they said, well, where are we going? I said, the cabin's right there. And then the guy got out a shovel and said, we got to dig down to the door. And they dug down 40 feet. And they got in the cabin, and they had coffee and tea, but they had to dig down. They had to dig a slide down to the cabin. Those little trees, that was just the tops of the trees. They were 40 feet more below them. That's how much snow they had out there at that time. Let's go back to this word. The waters gathered together from Strong's Concordance to heap up, to pile, to be heaped up. Let's see, another word here. This word, the flood. So we're looking at this word. We're examining these words in Exodus 15:8, the word the flood. Exodus 15:8. And the waters left your nothing together, and the floods. The flood stood upright. So the word the floods here comes from the Hebrew word IZN. IZN. It's Strong's 5140, pronounced Nazal. Oh, that's why I got IZN. I got it spelled backwards. It's Nazal. It's LZN, sorry. Nazal. And it means to drip, to shed by trickling, to flow, distill forth. So let's see, Stephen, I'll bring you back in here. When the water is melting off your roof and it's springtime and it's freezing at night and it starts dripping, what does it sound like?
I don't know. I don't know if I've ever really listened to that, Joseph.
Well, I think you will now. How
Yeah.
about how about Julie and Renee? Do you you guys are up in New York? You guys got snow that's melting, and when you go outside and you listen to it in an early morning, sunny morning, and it's starting to melt, how does it sound?
It's annoying. Honestly, it's annoying. I don't know, Julie, come on, you know. I don't know what I mean, it is annoying. It's just a drip, drip, drip. It's a constant.
Okay, make the drip go a little bit faster. What does it sound like then? It's a trickle.
Yes,
It's a trickle. And you can hear it sort of gurgling as it's going down, right?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so the floods comes from the Hebrew word nizal. It means to drip, to shed by trickling, to flow, to distill, flow forth, down, trickle. When you see the snow and ice melting on your roof, it's trickling down your eaves or down the icicles on your edge of your roof. It's trickling. And if you're standing by a brook and it's covered in ice, you can hear it babbling underneath it's trickling underneath the ice, right? It also, the same word, the flood, also means to flow, to gush out, to melt, to pour down running water or stream. That's what this word, the floods, means in this word here in verse 8, chapter 15. It also means to cause to flow. So when it melts, it causes more snow to melt, right? Let's see what else. Okay, stood upright. Where we got that? Stood upright. The flood stood upright like a heap. So stood upright comes from the word natsab, Strong's 5324. And it means to stand, to take one stand, to stand upright, to be set over, to establish, to station oneself, take one stand, to stand, be stationed, to stand, take an upright position, so standing upright, to be stationed, be appointed, deputy, perfect, appointed, deputed, to stand firm, to station, set, to set up, erect, to cause to stand erect, to fix, establish, to be fixed, to be determined, be stationary. Okay, so the next word in this same sentence, the flood stood upright like a heap. So this word heap comes from the word ned, from Strong's 5067, and it means heap, piling up, a mound, i.e. a wave, and is always meant as a heap. So when Stephen is shoveling snow or I'm shoveling snow, it's piled up in a heap to the side. For those of you who've never shoveled snow, you have no idea what you're missing. It's piled up like a heap. And when it's really wet, when the snow is really wet, it weighs a ton. Each shovelful is a heartbreaker or a heart attack shovel. And it's blue. That white snow is actually a turquoise blue when it's really wet. It's beautiful. But it's also very ugly because you know that it weighs a ton. Okay? So our next word here, and the depths. The depths, that's the next part of that same verse 8. The depths comes from the word and thom. I'm not sure how to say it. THOWM, thom. It's Strong 8415, and it has the following meaning: deep, depths, deep places, abyss, the deep, the sea, subterranean waters, deep sea, abyss, primeval ocean, deep, deep, deep depth of a river, abyss, the grave. Okay? which now brings us to our word of the day, congealed. It comes from the word gapha, Q-A-P-H-A, strong 7087, and it means to shrink, to thicken, as unracked wine, curdled milk, cloudy sky, frozen water. There it is, right there, frozen water. Condense, congeal, settle, become dense. To be condensed, thickening. To cause to curdle. Congelation. What did they walk through? Randy, what did I ask you to remind me of?
Chapter 14, verse 22.
14, verse 22. 14:22, where are you? So the children of Israel went into the midst of the sea and on the dry ground, and the waters were a wall to them on the right hand side and on the left. A wall of water, frozen water. I'm going to share my screen. And I want you to have a look here. Can you see that? I'm looking at you, Randy. Nod your head, yes or no. You see it? These are
We can
heaps.
see it now. Yes, sir.
This is heaps of ice from water. A wall of water, frozen. Here's another one. This happens to be the Niagara Falls pictures from many years ago. And people were walking up to this wall of water. Here's another one. This is a glacier. Look how beautiful that is. I wonder if anyone exited through this glacier here, fleeing from the Eskimos. Now, here's another glacier that's falling down. Why is it falling down? Because it was trickling and became more babbling and became more wet and unstable. And can you imagine being an Egyptian standing at the bottom of this? If you survive being crushed, you're going to drown. Here's another one. This whole glacier is falling down onto them. That's right, Nancy, very good. Here's another one, crashing into the sea. So what I'm showing you here, ladies and gentlemen, is what this one little word means. People go and read through this and they think, oh, that was nice. They walked through the Red Sea. Now, they went on dry ground. At this time of year in construction, and I asked Randy to remember this because Randy works in construction. When I go out, I'm in the fields, and I've got mud 3 feet deep. And sometimes I get stuck and I have to dig my way out on my backhoe. The track machines are just right up to the floorboards with mud. And we have to have an army of guys to dig that out at night so it doesn't freeze up. These are heavier machines that get stuck in the mud. In the morning, Randy, you can walk across that mud, can't you?
Yes, sir. If it's undisturbed.
Oh, hang on. You're in Texas. Does the ground ever freeze down there?
It does.
Yeah, it does. My foot, it does. Not like it does up here. I
Not
forgot
like
about that. It freezes here. The frost goes in the ground 4 feet in sometimes. And it's as hard as rock. So we're digging through, it's like almost like solid rock all the time in the wintertime. In the springtime, the frost comes out of the ground. You can walk across that. And if you walk across it a number of times, it starts to work the ground a little bit. And then that ground becomes softer. And all of a sudden it'll break and a jagged edge will come up. And then you're no longer walking on the frost, you're walking in the mud and you're tripping over all these jagged edges as each machine goes by. It becomes nearly impossible for the men to work out there in the field because the machines have just destroyed this hard surface that they used to walk on. This is what's happening to the chariots. The Egyptians walked through, maybe on wagons, they got wider wheels, and they've already softened it up, and they're all walking on foot. The Egyptians come in, they got the chariot wheels. They're the narrow wheels. They're not the wide ones, they're narrow wheels. And there's 3 men in there. Plus there's a whole bunch on foot racing beside them. And they got these horses with fast feet, there's small hoofs. So they're breaking up this frost as the morning is coming up and it's getting warmer, as the sun cracks over the horizon. I think it says in Deuteronomy, just as the sun, or not Deuteronomy, Numbers, just as the sun comes over the horizon and strikes the far bank, it starts at the far side of the Red Sea and starts tumbling in towards Israel. So Israel gets to watch at the far end, all the way coming closer and closer to them until the last one falls in front of them. That's the ice, the glacier breaking off and falling down on top of all these people below them. And they're aghast. That's what they just walked through. They're walking through in the middle of the night. It's dark and they can't see it. It's glowing off their lights and they hear the trickling of the water going down the side. That's what we read. One of the words described the trickling of the water. And some of it's roaring. It's roaring louder. That's the miracle Jehovah did that night. That's what they walked through. And when they got out the other side, it starts caving in on the Egyptians. It's killing them. Not just drowning them. If they survive being crushed, they drown, but they're probably crushed to death. That's what happened today. That's the waters being congealed that's spoken of here in 15:8 and Psalm 78, I think it is. That's what took place today. All I want you to do today is to see this miracle that happened. Not to just read over top of it. Keep on going. Let's get to the next chapter. Let's finish our quota for the day of 4 chapters. I want you to stop and see what took place today. So the thing I asked Johan to remind you of, in Passover 2016, we went early. And the rest of the groups went late. And they sort of lined up with the Hillel calendar that year, the Hebrew calendar. I think it was Passover that year, they had a snowstorm. They had a big snowstorm that year on their Passover, 30 days after we did. And they're saying that it's too cold right now for us to keep Passover now. It's still what they're calling winter because of the equinox. Yet it still dumped a ton of snow in 2016 on their Passover day, which was 30 days after the equinox that year or something like that. We had snow in Saudi Arabia 2 weeks ago. Mount Sinai was covered in snow. Did you see that, Randy? Did you get that email? I thought, wow, this could be great. I'm going to get to see the barley in Saudi Arabia. But anyways, it is what it is. But they had snow on Mount Sinai, Saudi Arabia. They had snow everywhere. Now they got rivers coming down where they've never had rivers for 50, 100 years. Clear water coming from the snow melting in Saudi Arabia. When was that? Just this past week, last week. What happened to Israel when Jehovah's nostrils, he blew through that and divided that water and formed 2 glaciers on either side. 180 know what's, hang on, how deep is that? I've got it right here. Do I have it here? 182 feet. I don't know where I put it. Okay, what I want to do now, because that's what I wanted to show you today, but I want you to read the Joe Dumont version of this event. And we're going to read, I'm going to insert a lot of Josephus here. Okay. And I think this is Exodus 15:21. Is it 21? Exodus 15, no, Exodus 14:21. 21. Then Moses stretched out. Yeah, Exodus 14:21. So this is the Joe Dumont Josephus version. Then Moses stretched out his hand over the sea, and the Lord caused the sea to go back with a strong east wind all that night, and made the sea into dry land, and waters were divided. The east wind is always an ill wind or a cold wind. That's me. This is my version. Okay. This wind was so cold that salt water foam looked like white clouds or curdling white milk. After they were frozen and piled up in heaps on top of itself, piled high. In fact, the deepest part of the crossing was 82 meters or over 250 feet in the middle. Frozen walls of ice with melting ice turning into water trickling down into streams. The ground was frozen so hard Israel could walk across on dry ground. Their wagons and animals and all others on foot. So Moses led the way and commanded the Israelites to follow him, because the people feared it was so dangerous looking and so foreign, a winter wonderland. The children of Israel went into the midst of the sea on the dry frozen ground, and the waters were frozen also, as if into a wall in piles on their right hand and on their left. The Egyptians, when the darkness was lifted, were surprised to see the Israelites crossing into the midst of this frozen wonderland, and were scared to pursue in such a dangerous condition. But they remembered each and every one of them having lost a firstborn from each family, and they recalled their land was destroyed by plagues, and down into this winter wonderland they pursued and went after them into the midst of the sea. All Pharaoh's horses, his chariots, and his horsemen. 600 chariots with 50,000 horsemen and 200,000 footmen, all armed for war. A fighting force of 50 brigades of men. Now it came to pass in the morning watch before dawn, as the Egyptian army closed in on Israel, that the Lord looked down upon the army of the Egyptians through the pillar of fire and cloud, and gave a glance back at them, and he panicked the army of the Egyptians. And he took off their chariot wheels as they became clogged in the mud, so that they drove them with difficulty, and the horses' hooves breaking through the frost and sticking to the mud. And the Egyptians said, "Let us flee from the face of Israel, for the Lord fights for them against the Egyptians." And they sounded the retreat. Then the Lord said to Moses, "Stretch out your hand over the sea, that the waters may come back upon the Egyptians on their chariots and on their horsemen." And Moses stretched out his hand over the sea. When the morning appeared, just as the first rays of the sun rising from the east over the mountains hit the frozen heaps of ice on the western shore, the sea returned to its full depth when the Egyptians were fleeing into it. So the Lord overthrew the Egyptians in the midst of the sea with thunder and lightning and a whirlwind and pouring rain. Psalm 77:16-20. The walls of ice crashed down on the Egyptians, smashing the chariots and wagons and men and horses to pieces. Then the waters returned and covered the chariots, the horsemen, and all the army of Pharaoh that came into the sea after them. Not so much as one of them remained. Approximately 251,200 men were destroyed. All of Pharaoh's army and Pharaoh as well. But the children of Israel had walked on dry land in the midst of the sea, and the waters were a wall, frozen heaps to them on their right and on their left. So the Lord saved Israel that day out of the hand of the Egyptians, and Israel saw the Egyptians dead on the seashore. Thus Israel saw the great work which the Lord had done in Egypt. So the people feared the Lord and believed the Lord and his servant Moses. So that's the edited version of this verse by Joe Dumont. You don't have to believe what I just shared with you, but it sure does make a whole lot of sense to me. And it makes the Bible so much more real to me when I can picture it and understand exactly what they're saying from my 21st century point of view, or my 6th millennium point of view. How's that? So let me close this out with prayer now. And unless anyone's got a question they want to ask it now, or we can talk after. I don't see any hands. No one speaking. Our Father Jehovah, our King and our Savior, our Redeemer, thank you, Father, for this 7th day of unleavened bread. And thank you, Father, for all that you've done for us on this day. And working out your plan of salvation with us on this day is just such an amazing thing to come to understand all that you're doing. And even in the world today with the coronavirus raging around, we thank you again, Father, for your protection, for your blessings, and for your calming voice. We pray that you continue to be with all of us. Even those who do not agree with our position this year, we pray that you be with them and help them to learn your Torah based on their understanding as well. We pray, Father, that you continue to guide us and lead us and teach us your way in all that we do. And we just give you thanks. Thank you. Thank you for calling us. Thank you for opening our eyes to understand these things. And thank you, Father, for choosing us. You didn't have to. There's 7.8 billion other people you could have chose, but you chose us. So thank you. All praise and glory goes to you. Shalom. Amen. Okay, we're going to stop this. Stop recording right there. Pause recording.